The absolute best way to listen to Jerome Powell deliver his remarks following the FOMC meeting, where he takes a lot of questions from people who are on what seems to be a Zoom call. The absolute best way to listen to this is with the mute button on. I listened to this guy for over an hour, and to tell you the truth, either I don't want to call him a liar, but either he's lying or he didn't take economics 101. If you want to understand the reason why the cryptocurrency market is pumping so high, and you want to understand the reason why the stock market is pumping so high, and you want to understand the reason why building materials for houses such as lumber have increased, the magic term is inflation. So that's what he really looks like right there. So I've got to turn this button down. But this is what happens when you print out lots and lots and lots of money and there's no fiduciary responsibility whatsoever. Well, what happens is when you print out this kind of money, you cause what's called inflation. Now, I know a lot of you did not take economics in school. Half of you probably slept through social studies and science class. But there's a video that you really should watch called DuckTales, where back in my day when I was a kid, they actually taught us about, stuff in general. Like we learned science, math, English, we learned Roman numerals. We actually learned how to write in script. These are things that the kids of Generation Z and Generation Alpha won't be learning. But I was fortunate enough to be born in the 80s. So I came just late enough to avoid slavery, but unfortunately early enough to not be able to see us travel to other planets. So, if you learn a little bit about inflation, what they teach you is that if you print money haphazardly, it causes the price of everything to increase. So, you need a bag of money to get on the bus, you need a bag of money in order to go to the dentist. You just need more money. What it means is that the cost of living is going to rise because now it requires more than the original amount of money you used to use in order to purchase the exact same goods and services. But Jerome Powell, apparently, he doesn't seem to understand this. So as you move up, you start to see stories like this back from March 18th. Young investors are putting their stimulus checks into stocks and Bitcoin. The reality is that the government normally outsources inflation by sending our useless American dollars over to Asia and countries that produce manufactured goods. For example, if I go to Walmart right now, I can get a 70-inch television for less than about $500. I can get an ONN, which you know is made in China and it's 70 inches and it's less than $500. Or I could get an LG for $28, a little bit more than, $500. But for the most part, I think you get my drift. Televisions, smartphones, iPads, iPhones, all of those useless Android phones that aren't worth mentioning, Samsung stuff. The bottom line is we normally outsource inflation by sending useless US dollar cash over to Asia. They send us manufactured goods. Now, here's the problem though. What ends up happening is because they can't buy much in their country with our money, what they do is they come to America and they purchase up real estate. Now, I'm not blaming them for doing this because, after all, if you're holding a lot of useless US dollars, you would want to purchase something that made sense too. You remember those photos of Saddam Hussein where he was hoarding US cash and he was hoarding it in closets? You probably don't remember these things. You might be too young. Well, when our American soldiers would go over to Iraq and all of these other countries, we would find stacks and stacks and stacks of US cash. So, what are you to do when you have this much US cash built up in your garage or your basement or in a hole somewhere? What are you supposed to do with it? You can't use it. I mean, if I was El Chapo or if I was Saddam Hussein or if I was some, rich oligarch in some other country, what am I to do with that cash? Well, what you do is you come back to America and you purchase up the houses. Because of the tax policies that are about to backfire, corporations have decided that they are going to start buying up houses. Now, guess what? Most of these kids from Generation Z, most of these kids from Generation Alpha, these poor kids, most of them have missed almost 2 years of school. They can't sign their name. They can't read Roman numerals. They can't really do much of anything. These kids are going to end up renting from corporations. The corporations, guess what? I didn't make this up. The corporations are buying up houses. Right now, corporations have purchased over 300,000 houses. Out of every 10 houses that get created, they're buying 2 out of 10, in some cases 3 out of 10. Some of these corporations are multinational corporations, some of them are American corporations, but the bottom line is your kids are probably going to end up renting. Why? Because they'll never have the skills or the money saved up in order to purchase their first house. Not only that, their credit is going to be shot to shit by the student loans. And if not the student loans, they'll probably take out large sums of money to buy, I don't know, sneakers, clothes, smartphones, stuff in general. This is the reason why this market is where it is right now. And not to mention this whole thing about inflation by printing money at the Federal Reserve is also causing building materials to rise. Lumber has increased more than threefold. Copper wire, pipes, all of this stuff is connected. See, what they don't talk about is the fact that when the government prints their welfare checks, what ends up happening is the cost of goods and services, they both go up. What they don't mention to you is the fact that when the Fed lowers the interest rates, it causes demand to rise for housing. Why? Well, because if the interest rates were high, fewer people would be able to take out the loans. Because, the interest rates are higher, so now they can't qualify for those loans unless they have higher than a 700 credit score. But if you lower the interest rates, well, the exact opposite happens. Demand skyrockets because now more people can qualify for the loans. So, I say all this to simply point back to the fact that there's nobody who can challenge the fact that what I'm saying is true. Not only is the Federal Reserve simultaneously printing money and keeping interest rates artificially low through quantitative easing, but they are simultaneously causing housing prices to rise, building material prices to rise, and we are still outsourcing inflation in the forms of trading US dollars for useless manufactured goods from Asia. But on top of that, we're causing the price of everything to go up. Hey, how about food prices? Food prices, drink prices, food prices. How are they doing in 2021? Oh, I know they're not going up. In 2021, food at home prices are expected to increase between 1 and 2%. I never would have expected that to happen. Let's see. March 5th, 2021. Food prices will continue to rise in 2021. Here's why. Well, what did you come up with? This is the first time I'm seeing this. What does it say? We can't blame politics for the increases? Well, I blame Powell's money machine and the haphazard printing of welfare checks. If I was president, you best believe that if we did have to give out some form of easing for the economy, I would have given out debit cards that would have linked every single purchase you made back to that debit card. You would not be allowed to gamble in the stock market. You would not be allowed to gamble on Dogecoin. You would not be allowed to purchase televisions. You would not be allowed to purchase Air Jordans. You would not be allowed to purchase anything that didn't have to do with bare necessities such as food, water, and toilet paper. You would be able to buy baby formula for your children, but you would not be able to buy all of these things that are causing goods and service prices to rise the way they're rising. So I submit my premise to you as the reason why, no matter how many welfare checks you get, goods and services will continue to rise in price, and you will always be behind in the K-shaped recovery.